Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Monday, November 18th. So the moon in this Gemini energy went void late last evening. We do have one aspect taking place here today with the moon still in this Gemini energy, void of course, before we lock into Cancer energy at 3:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The moon shifting into her rulership in Cancer energy always brings up the feels. Of course, we were bouncing around in the mental plane with the moon in Gemini, piquing our curiosity, piquing our want, need, and desire to go out in the world, to bounce ideas off of other people, to really collaborate, to communicate, definitely pushing us more into our extroverted personality than anything else. But we withdraw when the moon shifts into Cancer energy. We become a lot more introverted. We want to stick to what is tried, tested, and true. We resist thinking about the future. We want to very much romanticize the past. And it becomes very apparent where it is that we're trying to delude ourselves into thinking that situations and circumstances aren't really as bad as we actually know them to be, because we're trying to convince ourselves that we don't need to change, that we don't need to evolve, that we don't need to move on. However, if you actually tap into your higher self, if you tap into your intuition, you would know that that is merely not true. That is the ego's way of keeping us in a state of paralysis. The moon in Cancer energy, very intuitive, very emotional. We're getting to the heart of the matter. We are going to, because we're still very much under Scorpio's energy here in Scorpio season, we're going to realize where it is that we're holding on a little bit too tightly to people, places, and things of the past, where it is that a major change, a major transformation is taking place. And with all the astrology going on here right now and this week, we are definitely getting a jolt from the cosmos in order to reframe how it is that we've gotten here, what it is that, of course, we have this death grip upon, and why it is that we have the fears, the doubts, the insecurities that we do to let these particular aspects go. So there's definitely going to be a lot of emotion that comes to the surface of our awareness. We are in Scorpio season, a water sign. We are now going to have the moon in her rulership in Cancer energy, a water sign, and we are nearing the very final ending chapter of Scorpio season when essentially the phoenix is rising. What we also have going on here today is the very last day that Pluto, the great transformer himself, the ruler over Scorpio season, will be at this 29th critical crisis karmic degree of Capricorn energy. Of course, he's waiting until the final days, the wee hours left of Scorpio season in order to pass that particular baton into that Aquarius energy. And so today, there's definitely going to be a heaviness. There's going to be a weight, not only from the water energies, not only because the moon is in her rulership in Cancer energy, but because we are essentially wrapping up with a final review, a final ripple effect, looking back to 2008, we are wrapping up this particular chapter. Pluto is very intense. He does highlight the darkest parts of our past experiences in order for us to flip the script in our psyche, to see it in a different frame from a different lens in order to empower us, to put us in a position of power and control over our thoughts, over our emotions, and eventually over our physical circumstances. We're definitely going to be a little bit more nostalgic under this moon in Cancer than we would be in any other time frame because we're closing out this particular Pluto chapter. So we got a lot going on here today. That being said, there are 10 different aspects popping off here today. 7 of them are going to involve the moon. So the one aspect that we actually have here today still involving the moon in Gemini, but of course we are void in this particular energy, meaning things are shaky, things are unstable, things are uncertain. The moon in Gemini energy is going to make the harshest interaction possible with Pluto, again, at the final degrees of this Capricorn energy. The moon is at the final degrees of Gemini. Pluto is at the final degrees of Capricorn, and so this particular interaction going to discombobulate our heart and head. Anything that you were sure about, anything that you were optimistic about, anything that you were kind of building confidence about suddenly is going to break. Why? Well, because we're still in Scorpio season. We have to activate the triggers. We have to really see the darkest parts that are alive and well still within us, and especially where the negative narrative is definitely concerned. Now, of course, the whole point of illuminating the darker narratives, the darker thoughts, the darker emotions, the darker experiences, where it is that we don't feel in power or in control over our thoughts, over our emotions, over our physical circumstances, the whole point of that is for us to realize where it is that, again, we've given too much of our power away to some of these people, places, and things, these ideas, these emotions, where it is that we got to rein it in. We got to boss up. We're in Phoenix mode. We got to rise up. We got to do better. We got to be better. But of course, we have to find ourselves at the bottom of the barrel in the darkest spots of our psyche in order for us to, again, gain momentum, gain confidence, gain that power and control to get up, dust ourselves off, and actually climb out of this dark pit. 3:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon shifts into Cancer energy, her rulership. 3:56 a.m., we're going to have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves, slowing down because, of course, we're in the pre-retrograde shadow period. We'll be full-blown retrograde here on the 25th. And, of course, we're still in Sagittarius energy, so our minds are open. We're definitely ADHD squirrel brain, but they're open nonetheless. We're bouncing from one particular possibility or option or variability to the other. And we're not really focusing on anything in particular. And that makes it very hard to kind of feel like we're gaining clarity, feel like we are putting the puzzle pieces together. Mercury is going to be opposing, sitting directly across from Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, abundance, blessings. He's currently retrograde in Gemini energy. Sagittarius energy and Gemini energy sit across from each other in the zodiac wheel. The Gemini energy rules over the lower level of our intellect, very dependent on taking a good look at our physical environment, plucking the information, the details out of what we are currently being faced with in order to plan and strategize the options, the opportunity for growth, for learning, for evolving. The Sag energy is more about beliefs. It doesn't matter if we can't prove it, if we know something in our heart space to be true, if we truly believe it to be true, it is true. We don't need the evidence, the proof, the data, the facts. And so the interesting dynamic that we also have to consider here, Jupiter magnifies whatever it is that we're thinking, whatever it is that we're feeling, which could be a good thing if we can tap into the most positive lens, the positive narrative, or it could be a very detrimental thing because it's going to create confusion and an over-exaggerated state of not only thinking, not only feeling, but biting off more than we can chew as far as decisions and obligations go. So let's just kind of understand, first of all, there's going to be a pressurized energy in our headspace. If you haven't listened to the Ascension forecast this week, I'm going to recommend you do so that you understand where these physical symptoms are definitely rising to the surface of our awareness due to these energy shifts. Now, we talked about the head sensation. We talked about the head pressure. We talked about all the different rapid processing windows that we have open in our brains. This is definitely going to intensify just that. First of all, we're rushing through our thought processes. Now, that is going to lead to some missing details. That's going to lead us into situations that we are uninformed about, thinking that we are fully informed about, because again, we're trying to hurry up this process. This is also going to pressurize our speech. And so we may be verbal vomiting a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas that we haven't taken the time to actually run through, haven't taken the time to actually sit with to see if that's the way that we actually feel. Jupiter, of course, is going to give us an over-exaggerated state of thinking, state of expression, which again puts us in the verbal vomit cautionary tale where we could be overstating our thoughts, our emotions when we don't actually feel that way. Miscommunication is definitely a high probability here today and will gain a lot more intensity as we grow towards the 25th. So there's going to be a little bit of mental tension. We have to know that. We also have to understand that, the Sag energy that Mercury is in, straight shooter, no filter. Thus, we could be very insensitive with a lot of the verbal vomit situations that we find ourselves in. And of course, we could create a little bit of a mess for ourselves if we are not careful. The moon, now in her rulership in Cancer energy, going to make a positive interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries energy. Chiron is helping us with this new version of self. Chiron is helping us to identify the parts of this new version of self that still need a little bit of work, still need a little bit of time, energy, and attention to heal, to grow, to evolve. But this is a positive interaction, which means that we're not so focused on the wounds, on the pain, on the trauma. We're focused on where it is that we're actually feeling good, the areas of life in which we're actually feeling stabilized in, that we actually feel certain in, that we feel safety and security in, because of course the moon in Cancer wants all of those things. So we're starting to realize where it is that we're actually building a stronger version of self, a more secure version of self, where the values, the priorities of this new version of self definitely has changed. Therefore, our identity, how we're kind of projecting ourselves out into the world, that is changing as well. There's a new strength that we are recognizing within ourselves that comes out of the vulnerability that we are willing to stand in, willing to share with the people, with the world around us. 8:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon in Cancer energy is going to make a beautiful interaction with the sun in Scorpio energy. So of course, anytime that the sun and the moon are coming together in any kind of aspect, there's going to be an aha moment, an emotional awareness, if you will, of what we need to do, what we need to pursue, what we actually want, what we need, what we desire, and how to actually go about getting all of those things. Now, lucky for us, this is a positive interaction, which means that this is water on water action. Again, water on water means that is very cleansing, very purifying. It clears away the junk and the gunk that we have been sitting in, that we have been carrying. Then it refreshes us, it renews us in our soul, in our spirit, in our intuition, and it gives us the ability to align with the goal, the vision, the dream that our heart, that our soul, that our higher self needs us to pursue. So we're definitely going to have some epiphanies pop off under this particular influence. It's going to definitely show us what needs to change, what needs to transform in order for us to create a realm and reality that not only looks good, not only feels good, that feels safe, secure, especially for this long-term goal, vision, and dream that we're just starting to piece together. The moon in Cancer then going to make a positive interaction with Mars. Mars being the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires, even our anger. He's in Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac, eager beaver, ready to get off of the bench, into the game, ready to make some bold, brave, courageous, semi-dramatic kind of moves. Now, the moon and Mars working together to hone in where our passion, where our desire is being triggered and activated in order to take action and make moves to stabilize not only our inner realm, but our physical realm as well. We're building, cultivating a new fire, spark, flame in order for us to stay the course, in order for us to do what needs to be done, to actually close the door on the old and start building towards the new. We do have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, jumping in and making a very awkward interaction with Mars, which of course is going to put us in a situation where we're feeling restless, where we're feeling challenged, where we're feeling those ants in our pants. Again, there's going to be this impulsivity that we're going to have to resist. There's going to be this situation where we just want to kind of verbal vomit everything off of our chest. There's going to be this situation where we want to take action and make moves on the plans that are not well thought out, that we are just glossing over, that we're missing a lot of details about before we can make an informed decision. So the energy is going to be rising, but in the worst kind of ways, because we have ants in our pants. We want to take action, we want to make moves, but we shouldn't. So we have to resist a lot of those particular energies. The moon is then going to get into the boxing ring, square off with the North Node in Aries energy. Of course, the square is going to highlight where we're feeling challenged, where we're going through a little bit of a growing pain. And the biggest growing pain that we're realizing right now is, again, when we give ourselves permission to think about what could be, what we should be doing, what we want to be doing, it puts into perspective a lot of the things on our to-do list that, of course, aren't going to be fun, that are closures, that are endings that we're not quite prepared for as of yet. And again, the moon in Cancer, overly attached to the past. So here the North Node is trying to get us on the right path, trying to get us thinking about our future, trying to think about all the options and opportunities that we have to grow, to evolve. The moon gets overwhelmed. We don't want to go that far. We don't want to think that far ahead. We don't want to even think about the to-do list that would be created if we actually aligned with a choice point, with a decision point. And so the growing pain here is that we're avoiding thinking about those steps ahead. We are doubling down on trying to convince ourselves that maybe we don't have to change. Maybe we don't have to transform. Maybe we don't have to grow. Maybe we don't have to evolve. Maybe we just need to reframe how it is that we're thinking, how it is that we're feeling right now, and we won't have to do a damn thing. Thus, the growing pains continue. The moon then going to directly sit across from Venus. Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money. She's in this Capricorn energy, Cancer energy, Capricorn energy. They sit across from each other in the zodiac. They represent safety and security. The Cancer energy wants those things in their private lives, in our emotional realm. The Capricorn energy wants that in our outer realm, where finances, where goals, where careers are concerned. Venus, of course, trying to think about the long-term goal, vision, and dreams, especially with what it is that she needs to feel safe and secure, stabilized, taken care of, especially where money matters and relationships are concerned. The moon, of course, sitting across from Venus, we're not going to feel safe and secure. We're not going to feel good. We're going to feel overwhelmed with what it is that we need to change, that we don't want to change, because again, we're trying to romanticize the past. We're definitely going to have triggers and activations pop off, especially where our closest relationship dynamics are concerned, to put into perspective what we're okay with, what we're not, what we need to change, what we don't, what we can tolerate for the long term, and what we don't want to. And of course, aha moments and epiphanies will definitely arise out of this particular opposition. We have the sun in Scorpio energy coming into a trine, beautiful interaction, with Neptune, who is retrograde in Pisces energy, is rulership. So again, water on water action. Now we're in the final degrees here of Scorpio season. That is a big deal. We also have this Neptune energy trying to show us where it is that a new goal, new vision, new dream is trying to be kind of downloaded, ignited, if you will, within us. And because we are at the Phoenix rising stage of Scorpio season, we are ready to abandon a lot of the fears, the doubts, the insecurities that have been kind of preventing us from seeing the path clearly, seeing the plan clearly, feeling the overwhelming calling of our soul, of our higher self, in what it is that we need to do. So this is going to be a dreamy type of energy because we're ready to let things go. That water energy is going to wash over us, and we're ready to let those heavier emotions, those heavier thoughts go. We're ready to go with the flow. We're ready to boss up. We're ready to kind of be a little bit more open to where it is that we need to go from here. And our intuition is super strong, coming online, giving us the support that we need to build ourselves up for this major change, this major transformation that, again, we are definitely more prepared now to definitely make. The last thing that we got going on here today is the moon in this Cancer energy, semi-squaring Uranus, the great awakener, who of course is retrograde in Taurus energy. This is going to bring on a level of confusion just when we're ready to rebel, just when we're ready to empower, just when we're ready to rise, just when we're ready to transform. The mental plane is definitely, and the nervous system, gonna kick in, prevent us from actually feeling as confident as we did earlier on, especially under that Sun and Neptune influence. Now we're creating confusion where there doesn't need to be. Now we're creating nervousness where there doesn't need to be. Now we're trying to convince ourselves to just hunker down, have the attitude of gratitude for where it is that we're at and what it is that we've already got, trying to convince ourselves that we don't need to grow, that we don't need to evolve. Again, desperately holding on to the old.